The fourth sign of the zodiac is Cancer. So you examine that energy to understand the message, you see. Or numerology. What does the 4 mean in numerology? I say you use every tool available, you see. But your first tool is your spirit, and it's the one that's going, you know, and it's going to train you if you just listen to it, you know. Like I went to the store, I was talking about, my spirit told me to go back and get some light bulbs. I didn't do it, and my light bulbs all blew out, you see. So it'll test you in that way. It'll give you little mundane things to test you to see how much you're listening to it. Just so it can show you when you don't listen, you get your butt whooped. And when you do listen, things seem to blossom for you, you see.
What is the role of genetics? I mean, I don't think some people are genetically disposed to
raising their vibration, a higher vibration.
I'm sure it's just related to melanin.
Right,
but
absolutely.
I think it's related to something else.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah. In other words, it's like as I walk through the average place, right there, you know, there are those who seem to be present.
Yes, and some that are not. Right, that's right. It's about the programming, okay? And it's the movie The Matrix. I always go back to that because it really gives you a profound, understanding of what we're dealing with here, you see. We are batteries, okay? We energize their purpose, you see. And we remove our participation from energizing this illusion. All of this will fall down, you see. We come into this life as very powerful beings, okay? But as we start adding this limitation, this structure, this, whatever refrains us or holds us back is what is stifling our power. So we have to become of the mindset that we are the creators and ruling powers of the universe, and nothing, like I said, fear nothing. Whatever you want to do, if you know you have the power to do it, you can activate that power. You see, we got to come up out of the system. We got to become unplugged. You see, I'm hearing about a phenomena of people leaving their jobs. I've been hearing that for the last week or so, all the way from Texas, to Indianapolis, to New York. People are leaving their jobs. And that's because their spirits are doing that. Their spirits is restless. It's time to become whole. Right now, the universe is demanding fulfillment. And if you're dealing in anything that's not fulfilling, it's going to tear and break it down, okay? And all you need to do is, I done got to the point where I say just put me on wheels because I'm just ready to roll with the flow. Because you can't second guess the spirit, you see. All you can do is put the faith and the trust that where your spirit is taking you is going to lead you to your ultimate best, you see. You see, and then, stop holding back. That way you're holding back into the physical. Yes.
We also have to be cognizant that a lot of us have been separated from tapping into our spirit. We have been desecularized and religionized. And so,
yes, absolutely.
So many of us don't know how to tap into that anymore.
Yes.
And that's going to be a very difficult transition for some. And for some are not going to be able to make that transformation at all because they have become so materialistic. So that war is going to be inside yourself. You have to know that this whole system was designed to separate you from your spiritual.
Oh, absolutely.
Your spiritual force. So they don't want you to get that, and they're going to constantly set things up to try to keep you away from that.
The
so
food.
That's where the real war is on now.
They've taken the seeds out of our food. We get our information from our seeds, okay? They've also, the heart program, you see. All of our electric devices, the TVs, the cable, all of these are energy. They're distractors. Yeah, energy distractors. So they're doing everything they can to circumvent us, lifting that vibration because they know we're going to be getting help.
Because they've studied us to the molecule. They know everything about you, dead or alive. They've studied you.
They know everything. And so what we got to do, but they also know, they should know it's futile, But you know why, though? Because they are affecting the masses. So they're getting their confidence from the fact that the masses of the people are under their control. But we know it's not going to take the masses, you know. Just like the Bible said, it's a small remnant, you see. It's just a small core. All we need is a small core, you know, to undermine anything that they would, you know, would try to do. Because like we were saying, they may have the masses even of the black folks, but if you're not conscious, if you haven't raised your vibration, you know, your power is no, you know, then we who are conscious, you know, they don't have a fraction of the power that we have, you see. So it's about, that's the reason why they think, you know, that they, you know, they got it all going on. But if you listen to your spirit, no matter what the physical world is showing you, you will realize that this is being torn down by our energy, and that it's getting ready to make way for a whole new beginning in a new age and a new rulership. And that is what we're supposed to be in training for, to step up to that new rulership. But it will be under the principles of righteousness, you see. And all, like I said, when you start operating with all of these energies, you're operating under all those principles of righteousness, you see. And that, we're in the hall of Ma'at. Who all knows who Ma'at is? Maybe I'm not pronouncing it. Mayat, you see. Right, but of what? Of justice, fairness, you know, right, you see. So you have to use all these energies. So that includes the righteousness. The higher level spirits is always looking for a vessel to impart their information through. But the minute you abuse your integrity, they will vacate the very second you do. Okay? And then the lower level spirits will come in, the trickster spirits, you see. So you have to be a vessel of integrity in order to access that higher information, you see. And so, because this is about coming back in tune with and in harmony with the universe, which is about righteousness, you see. And as long as we're in that physical rotation, we're still in the material rotation, the me, I. And it's about now investing in the whole, in the bigger picture, seeing your role in the universal scheme and stepping up to that role, you know, so what is good for the whole will then have personal repercussions, you see. So anytime you're dealing on a physical level, you're going to be dealing, anytime you're dealing singular, you're dealing physically. And anytime you're dealing on a collective, that's when you're dealing in the spiritual, you see. So if you're trying to empower yourself on a singular basis, you see, for what you're trying to accomplish personally, you're not going to get the participation of the rest of the force. See, the energy, the spirit cannot limit itself to a singular purpose, you see. It wants to fix the bigger problem. Say you have a problem and you are not getting justice and you appeal to the spirits to bring you justice. Don't look for it to solve your personal problem. What it is going to do is attack the system that produces your problems, you see. What you send out is what you get back. So if you start making this a personal attack, expect that energy to come back on you threefold. You don't want to send anything out, you know, in a personal battle, okay? Because what you send out, you bring back. So you might as well just continue to send out the best so that you bring the best back onto you, okay? And the way to avoid getting caught up in that trap is to attack the system that caused the problem and not go after any personal vendettas, you see. And then you stay in that, right, that's the hardest thing to do. Right, right. And that's why, and it's fitting to come back to the Aries Libra, you see, because the Aries is about our fight, our personal battle. But until we use that in conjunction with its polarity, which is about justice and fairness and equality, then our battles are only personal, you know, and we're on our own, okay? But when we want to, you know, use it with this equal and just partnerships, then we get the forces of the universe behind our cause. Yes, yes, you definitely do. See, so that's what we are looking at. We're looking at trying to, you know, build up those righteous principles within us, so that whenever we see the unrighteous acts unfolding, you know, we will be the ones to identify that through our indignation. You see, we have a right to be indignant about the rape of Mother Earth, you see. you see. And so we were supposed to be her vanguards anyway. We were supposed to stop them. Just like she was saying, the mother is angry at us. I don't know, how many of you seen the movie Black Road? It's a good movie to watch. It's about the Indians and how they conquered the Indians through Christianity, you see. And they were rich in the spirit. But when they started walking with, and the Indians called the white man the devil. They just, you know, when the Indians started walking with the devil, they went to the shaman, and the shaman said, the spirit is angry with you because you walk with the devil, and it is against you. And it took them out, okay? And then the other Indians, at the end of the show, the white man brought his disease in, okay? So it was killing off the Indians. So they were going, well, finally they were going, okay, if we take Christianity, will it save us from this disease? So that's how they tricked them into taking Christianity. And before they were discussing it, they were saying, but if we take it, our enemies will know we're weak, and we will no longer be able, you know, we will no longer be able to survive. And so they were desperate enough to take on Christianity because of this sickness. But sure enough, after they took on the Christianity, you know, 12 years later, they were wiped out, okay? Because the spirit was angry with them. They were rich in the spirit, and they turned, you know, against them. Absolutely. It's just the same thing. We're just looking at energies, you guys, at different levels. That's all, you see. So we're still talking the same thing. It's the same way of conquering. They haven't changed their method of conquering. You know, I don't understand how we can be so programmed. I mean, we got a church on every corner, and still we're in the condition that we're in. What's wrong with this picture? What should that tell you? You know?
Those are Caesar's house.
Yes, you know, they're not helping anything. I once went to East St. Louis, and everything was boarded up. All the businesses, the houses, everything was boarded up except for the fast food joints and the churches.
And the liquor store.
Yeah, and the liquor stores. You know, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, the 4 tools that they use to keep us in oppression: religion, education, entertainment, and the medical. Those are the 4 tools, okay? Just like I was telling you, they want to now inoculate us. Do you know what they're putting in those inoculations? And now they're telling us that we can refuse, but we will be quarantined. You know? So it's either, you know, they got us between a rock and a hard place here. But we have nothing to fear.
All out slavery. That's plain and simple.
But we have nothing to fear, because our spirit is going to be able to give us the answers. Even though we can't see them physically, you know, our spirit will be able to show us how, you know, to deal with this chaotic time and come on top here, you see. The story's already been told. It's already unfolded on a spiritual level. What we're now seeing is only the physical manifestation. Okay.
I was in Texas, Dallas, about a month ago, and it was hard. I was there for a week, and it was hard for me to stay there.
Yeah.
Because of
the energy. Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, you said that Texas was the seat. I forgot the exact term.
Of the Illuminati.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I began to think about. I had just returned.
Right.
And the other thing that hit me while I was there, and I'd like you to address this, is these acts, the inoculations, all of what I call the power moves, are associated with what is clearly a last ditch.
Oh yes.
Effort.
They are desperate.
Desperation.
They are desperate.
And I walked into a gas station for a map. And everyone in that store, all of whom were white, literally went up against the wall. All I did was walk in the store.
Right.
And I laughed.
Right.
Because I knew why
They
did
did.
what they did. And it has to do with desperation.
Right.
What I don't see, although I'm seeing it, I mean, in my own personal life.
Right.
You talked about being, as you raise
Yes.
yourself up.
Right.
You alter time.
Right.
And all the elements.
Right.
You become like, it's like a God force that exists
Yes,
within you,
absolutely.
right?
Yes.
What I don't see though, is rather I should say I still see individualism.
Yes.
It's me, it's Neo, if you will.
Right.
Versus the whole
Yes.
world.
Yes.
What I'd like
Right.
to see right, is this collective song, this collective frequency,
Right.
this collective
Yes.
coming together,
Yes. Yes.
which transcends or moves us all
Right.
into those higher levels.
And you will see that. You will see more and more of that occurring. You'll see more of that happening, especially as we get this, you know how they went to Pharaoh and said, Pharaoh, lighten up, our burden is hard, and he said, I'm going to come down even harder if you think. And that's when Moses was said, let my people go, you know. But wait a minute, she had her hand up back there.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to the brother that it's already happened.
Mm-hmm. It's already happened. Mm-hmm.
Your vibration is already raised.
Well, see,
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And you, when it happened, you probably got used to it now.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't tell the difference.
I remember when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
But you're already
Yeah.
there.
Mhm.
Now you're going to need an experience to show you that you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll happen too.
Yeah, that'll happen too.
If you look at the historical models,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I'm really getting at. There's got to be an opposite. You talk about balance,
That's right.
right?
Right.
For this level of desperation, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There has to be an opposite,
Reality.
set
Right.
of circumstances
Right.
that would merit
Right.
the
This.
degree of desperation that is being exercised.
Right,
They,
yes.
They
Right.
know it.
Now-
They
now-
already know it.
Yeah.
Now, I have a sense, like for example, the water. I don't know. Have you noticed the water is totally dead?
Yeah, I mean, oh yeah. You don't drink that. Yeah, don't drink that water. Yeah,
Right? Now,
right.
I'm expecting at any point in time to just literally beam out of here, right? Or something. But the thing is, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm looking for a series of catastrophes. You see how quiet it got?
Right. But see, you can set it off. You can set it off. You can be a part of that. I'm telling you, we got to know this. We got to know who we are. We're connected with the energies of nature. We can activate these things, you see. And I started noticing, my spirit started proving that sort of stuff to me. And it took me a long time before, I know I'd get real angry. And then there'd be, a tornado someplace. And it started happening too regularly for me to ignore that. You see?
Sisters are going to make this happen.
Yes, absolutely. And
They're the ones.
right, absolutely. And that's because we are, we are more in tune with our, our subconscious than the men. See, we are more in tune with our emotions, which is the water, which is the soul component, which is the universal component. See? Right, and we can tap into that, you see, a little more easily than the men because they're more into, the ego, they have a more focused vision, you see. And so the women are the ones who get into that intuition and stuff, and that's what brings those insights to them more readily, you see. But on a spiritual level, the men are the ones that are, activating things from the spiritual level. You see.
But really, it's the unconsciousness of the woman that's killing the species and the planet. Her unconsciousness, really, and that's why all the deception is targeted at her.
Yes, absolutely.
She's used significantly into keeping this
Right.
Holocaust going, and so unless she changes her consciousness, we all might be checked.
Well, see, and that was what the movie The Matrix was all about, okay? That was really a feminine movie. Because girlfriend was already out. She had to tell boyfriend, you still in the Matrix.
Okay.
Right?
There you go.
You're still in the Matrix. And then, see, he didn't have a clue throughout, and she run around there. But I know you're the one because, the oracle told me I would fall in love with the one. Okay? And he like, no, because, again, the knowing. Okay? It's not until you know. And that's why the oracle said, well, no, you're not the one. Because it's not until you know. Like it's just like falling in love. Nobody has to tell you. You just know. Okay? And so she knew he was the one. Okay? So she had to be his inspiration. And that is what's happening as we reverse the roles here. It's like we have to step up into our queenship. And then what we do is set the standards to challenge our men, to grow them up, to reach into their kingship so they can then make their claim on their queen. Okay? These fairy tales have all the truth to them, you know, just like the prince that had to slay the dragons in order to rescue the princess, okay, in order to gain what? The kingdom, okay? So those dragons are internal dragons that our men have to conquer in order to rescue their woman or their queen. And when the men come online, you know, then we are equally built up in equal measures. We're representing those polarities, and we come together in harmony and in balance and in wholeness, you see. So it's all about the woman, you know, defining the standards which will challenge the man, you know, to raise and match those standards, and then he will grow into the king that he is, and then he will feel comfortable about making his claim on the woman who caused him to do that, you see. You see, and that'll be the woman to make his claim. You see, I can only claim her until I am a fitting king, fit for this woman, this ruler. You see, so that we have to reverse things. You see, we have to reverse things. You know, rather than the women coming down to get a man, she has to inspire him to come up. You know, to match her standards, so that he can be a match for her. And then we can then we form that spiritual partnership here, you see. And that is going to bring us power together, you see. So
much of the Bible, the Old Testament, deals with mating.
Yes. It's all about that. It's all about that.
Right?
Yes. A true Aries, didn't I tell y'all Aries was a sex sign? Caught you, didn't I?
Like I said, you know more about me than I do. But seriously though, you've got reproduction.
Yes.
Okay? That's a major theme, okay, in the book.
Yes.
Now, there's a spiritual war that you
right.
that's taking place. It's not conventional.
Right.
But it seems to me that it has a lot to do with mating.
Absolutely.
A lot.
It does, everything.
And in particular, there's there's still a gap.
Yeah.
I can't hold it in no more. That's population control. That's why 85 to 80% of the black man is locked up, is to keep him from mating with the black woman. The black woman, the indigenous black woman, cannot mate with just anybody.
Right.
She has to mate with her own DNA. So keeping him locked up away from her is population
Absolutely.
control, because they need to control the numbers of a certain people,
yes.
not everybody.
Right. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Genetics, DNA, and
right.
when I do my lecture, I'll
right.
go into that.
Absolutely, you know, so, because they are reproducing at 1.5, a rate of 1.5, where that's not enough to replace yourself, in other words, you see. And so they are steadily declining. There was a study where they followed a black woman and her offspring, and after 100 years, she had maybe hundreds of thousands of offspring, where the white woman still only had one, okay? So they know if they project into the future, they're non-existent. So if they can't increase their fertility, then the next thing they have to do is decrease ours. Yes.
They done it.
Yes.
They done it.
Yes.
We won't be here another 40 years unless we do something.
Go ahead.
Years ago, and I don't know exactly when, Willie B came on the scene.
Yes.
But I know that I wasn't involved in metaphysics.
Yes.
But I also knew that if they gave Willie B a mate, that there was something wrong with them holding our black men in jail.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, yes, absolutely. You know, so.
Because they felt more in the heart about that gorilla.
Right, right. Absolutely. You know, and they've always felt more about their animals than they felt about us as a human being, you know. Right. But, you know, like I said, though, the Matrix will tell you that story, because the girlfriend went in and got her man out of the Matrix, you see. And, you know, so we will be the ones. And that's where this unconditional was trying to show us, this unconditional love. That don't mean you just accept anything. It means that you will not be in judgment. You know, you set the standards, and then you trust them you know, to rise to those standards. You don't stand over them trying to tell them how, you see, but you trust, you know, that they will do that. You know, that's that unconditional love, and I'm not going to hold it against you because you weren't there, you know, at the same time I was there, you see. I'm your mate, and I'm here to pull you up so that we can empower ourselves together, you see. That's what the whole concept is on that, you see.
That's why I named my daughter Trinity.
Oh, wonderful. You know, that really represents the triple blackness. Yeah, triple blackness, because you got tri in the middle of infinity, tri-infinity, trinity, you see. So infinity is the 8, okay? And the 8 always represents Saturn, which represents the color black, okay? So we've got the triple blackness again. Yes. You know, so you have that triple blackness there with the and see, how is that? The triple, yeah, so if you take that 8 of Trinity and add it to the 1 of Neo, then you have the number 9, which is fulfillment.
God in one.
Right.
Trinity in one.
Fulfillment. Absolutely. So that's what that's all about. Yeah, take that. See, everything is symbolic. And you have to look at these things, you know, break it down. If you have no other tool but numerology, do that, you see. Everything of nature has a symbolic meaning to it. When you see a bird in the sky, you're not looking at a bird. That's something somebody has defined for you as a bird. And so because they defined it to you as a bird, you set limitations on that creature. You understand? Because who knows where that's actually the fairies. That's an air entity, which means the fairies are actually what the birds are bringing you messages through the fairies, you see. You see, you get them outside your window, there's a message. Listen to how, you see. And if you know what particular type it is, you can find out that particular message for that, you see. You know, that's when we got into the totems before, you see. Nature, see, when they say our ancestors had these gifts, it's the same gifts we have, you see, but we have to tap into those elements in order to activate them. There's spirits in the water, there's spirits in the air, there's spirits in the fire, there's spirits in the earth, okay? So we have to be able to tap into those spirits, you know, through our own internal spirits and empower ourselves in that way, you see. So we have to, so I can say over and over and over and over again, you see, follow your own spiritual guidance. It'll tell you what you can't do and what you can do, you know, versus what other people are doing and what they can't do, okay? We all are like flowers, you see, and we all partake of the elements, the sun, the air, the earth, and the water. But some of us sit closer to the water. Some of us sit on the hill. Some of us get more of the sunlight. So we're all going to create in our own unique manner, although we use the same elements and the same tools to do that. But we have to follow our own spirit to understand, you know, where our path lies. You see, what works for me may not work for you. What works for you, and you never take the whole of anybody's message. Never. Okay? You only take what you can use, what your spirit helps you to swallow, and what doesn't work, you just cast it out. But you don't condemn the person. See, the white folks do that. If you don't fit the whole model of what you're supposed to fit to bring me this message, we reject the whole message. That's not how it works. Spirit brings messages through any direction. You don't know what tool it will use, you see, but you have to be able to discern what part of that message was for you and what part, you know, doesn't work. It may work for somebody else, but it doesn't work for you, okay? I want to thank you very much again for coming out, you know. It's time, the tape, and I appreciate this so much. I really want us to continue doing this and building up. You know, I'll be back again next week, and next week I'm going to be doing Jason, Horus, and Christ, the power of Mars for a new beginning, okay? And so now we're going to get into some actual mythology regarding the Aries energy. So, you know, we'll get some perspective of the mission of the Aries energy. And Jason in particular, you know, that's one we should really identify with. You see.
Who is Jason?
Jason and the Argonauts, you never heard of him? Yeah. Come sign? Oh, well, then you sure enough better be here.
You know what sign Jesus was? The one of the Bible? Do you know what sign? Was he a Pisces?
Well, he should have been Capricorn. Because, you know, you're doing it December 25th.
Okay, was that his act? Because I heard that wasn't his actual birthday.
No, but that is symbolic of it. Because when I did the Christ conference up here, I showed where Jesus is nothing but symbolic of the sun. Okay? And the sun does make its pinnacle in the Capricorn energy at the winter equinox. Okay? So that's why they got the Jesus story and applied it to what the sun actually is symbolizing. So it would be it's just a mythological figure, you know, but they're using that to symbolize the cycle of the sun. Okay. Yeah. And you know what? Yes, and all those go back to Saturn. Saturn, yes. New age, okay? That's what the Aries energy is all about. We're going to be working with the energy of the spiritual warrior. First off, I want to greet the spirits. I always like to pay homage to the elemental spirits, Ashe. Also to the ancestor spirits, Ashe. And the universal spirits, Ashe. Have them come in here and fill up these seats and bring their energy and information, okay? Today, like I said, we're going to be talking about Jason, Horus, and Christ. And, of course, as you've heard me say before about the Aries energy, is a cardinal energy, which makes it the energy of leadership. It's the energy of royalty, okay? The actual initiation of the spring, you see, the cardinal energy, the new beginnings. It's a fire energy. So we're going to be dealing with our passions. This is also our protection, you see. I want to give you some information about the elements. I did this little, Spirit just kind of gave this to me. And I want to explain how this energies work. You see, the energies work through the elements. We have first the water. And what we have to do is conquer or master the water level, which is our emotional level, okay? And that's also at a higher vibration, we're talking about the soul level, okay? And then the next level we have to conquer, which is demonstrated right here. That's the water. This is demonstrated right here is the water. As above, so below. This is representing the below, and this is the above, and how energy unfolds or manifests itself. And this is the water that we're looking at, which comes from the water here in this part of the pyramid. The next level that we have to conquer is the air, which is the mental level. We have to master that. And the mental level is where we get in touch with the spirit. Okay? At the higher level, it's the spiritual level, where we deal with our spirit energy. Okay? And then the third level we conquer is the fire. And that's what I'm trying to get to now, is the fire energy. Now, fire energy deals with our passions, and it deals with the divinity level. This is where we access our magic at. This is where we access our power at, you know, in the fire energy, you see. And then the final level we deal with will be the earth level. And see, we've got it backwards. You know, we're living the earth or material level, and then we're trying to force spirit to deal on our level with us. So we have to turn it around now, and like I said, conquer the water, conquer the air, and then conquer the fire. And then after you've conquered those three levels, then is when it makes the physical manifestation in the earth level, you see. And when we're dealing with the water, we're dealing with our emotions. When we're dealing with the air, we're dealing with how we think, our peace of mind. When we're dealing with the fire, like I said, we're dealing with our passions. And then when we're dealing with the earth level, there has to be value, okay? And when you put all that together, that's when you manifest your power. That's when the magic comes through. But it has to be an action of integrity. Has to be an action with character in order to manifest in that physical reality, you see. I just wanted to kind of give you that that information here. Like I said, the soul is the water, that's the mother. The spirit is the air, that's like the daughter. And then the earth, you know, that's like the crystallization, and that's the father. And then the fire is the power. And so you see that's like the below or the earth, and the red is like the fire or the power, connecting it up with the universal whole. And then the fifth element is the ether around that, which is a conductor for that, you see. That's how we manifest our power. Now, so the Aries energy, the fire, as I said, this is where we tap into our magic at. This is where we get, the reason we're focusing on Jason and Horus is because these are where our heroes come from, you see. These are the ones that have to perform miraculous feats in order to conquer the things that would keep us in the illusion, in the physical reality, you see. So this is where we stand up, you know, with Aries representing the spiritual warrior. This is where we stand up and make our claim, you know, to master the spiritual warriorship, to claim the rulership, you see, which is the Aries or the next fire sign that it would connect up to, you see. All the same elements are going to be in harmony with one another. So not only does the Aries get highlighted, but the Leo, which is the other fire sign, and the Sagittarius, which is the third fire sign, they all get highlighted also, you see. So when we step up and make our claim, you know, to our power, which is what the Aries is what we're doing, you see, that empowers us to step up to our rulership in the Leo. And then in the Sagittarius, this is spiritual wisdom and expansion, you see. So I wanted to read you a little bit about Jason so you can get an idea. Before, I did a lecture here which was called the symbolism that they did not want us to see. And in this lecture, I talked about Hercules. And I identified Hercules as symbolic of the Aries energy, but it's the lowest manifestation. This is about the man of strength, which is actually representing the white man, okay, who controlled the gods, in other words. And we talked about how he had to go through this twin gateway in order to shut down the apocalyptic feminine energy, you see. So I got all this, I tied all this into Aaliyah, you know, the 911, and all of this, and how it relates to the white man and Hercules going through that twin gateway. And in that, I was talking about Hercules being a symbolic of the Aries energy at its lowest manifestation, but then Jason being the higher manifestation of that Aries energy, which actually represented us. So I'm going to, it says here, we come now to the myth for Aries. Both are solar, heroic stories about young, naive, independent, supremely confident heroes. In the first story, Hercules learns the importance of turning to his friend Mercury, his esoteric ruler. In the second story, Jason, he learns the need to acknowledge at least the principles of Eros, child of goddess Aphrodite, if not also the need to sacrifice his restless independence to Eros and settle down with a mate, you see. So the Jason story is more about settling down. The Hercules story was about shutting down the reality, going through the twin gateways when we're talking about illusions versus reality. Reality, of course, is spirituality, and the physical is the illusion. And so the Hercules, or the white man, wants to keep the illusion intact, you know, so that the spiritual reality does not manifest itself. So that is the Hercules story. But now we're moving to the Jason story, where it's about how do we fulfill the prophecy, you see, the prophecy of the return, you know, of the ancient ones, you see, because that's who we are. And this is the story that Jason is going to represent for us, okay? It says, Jason's quest for the solar treasure, the golden fleece, and the throne that is his birthright, It says Jason is looking for the golden fleece. It says, however, like most of us, he is not aware in the beginning of how difficult the quest for this fleece will be. He sets out with his 11 trusted friends on behalf of his uncle, and from whom the fleece had been stolen, to retrieve it from Greece. He lands in Colchis and discovers that the rumors were correct, that the fleece is there under guard. But the king of Colchis has no intentions of parting with such a treasure, but he is too old to fight Jason personally and does not want to lose face. Instead, he offers Jason a task. Do the impossible, and I will certainly and willingly yield the fleece. The task is to harness 2 fire-breathing bulls to a plow made of dragon's teeth and sow a field. However, as soon as Jason would finish sowing, the dragon's teeth would spring forth as warriors ready to kill him in the defense of the fleece. Since this is an Ares myth, and Ares often attempts what others would consider impossible, Jason, participating in the archetype, says, "Of course I can do it." And the king of Colchis thought this task likely to discourage our young hero and cause him to lose interest in the quest. Of course, a hero does not appreciate delay, and Jason does have a temporary bout of faint-heartedness. This is not a problem. Mars can solve in its own style independently. It goes on to say that he prays for an ally. He prays to the goddess of love, Aphrodite, and she sends him Medea, who is like a witch, you see. And the witch comes in, and she has a vial of oil which she pours on the dragon's teeth as Jason finishes plowing so that the teeth will not become warriors. Together the two complete the task for the king, and theoretically the golden fleece is now Jason's. However, life is full of complications, and Jason discovered that he still has to fight a pitched battle against Medea's father. By the end of the story, when Jason, his friends, and Medea sail off with the golden fleece, Medea feels that she has been betrayed. She has betrayed her family. Her aid to Jason has resulted in the death of her father, the brother, her cousin, and her use of soothing oil has resulted in violence. And then it talks about how when Jason he falls in love with another lady, okay, after the battle has been won. And he tells Medea that she is expendable, and he is now in love with the princess of Corinth. And she shrieks, "After all what I've done for you, I betrayed my family and my country, after all the blood on my hands because of helping you." And he says logically, "Oh no, I don't owe you anything. It's the goddess who helped me, Aphrodite, answered my prayer by sending you along and making you fall in love with me. It's Aphrodite who aided me, not some mere mortal sorceress." Thus was the end of the story. Medea was feeling vindictive and vengeful, and this was the beginning of her evolution into a terrible mother who would one day devour her own children, you see. So this is the story of him, you know, the golden fleece. There's another story in here that has to do with Jason trying to gain the golden fleece, and I wanted to read this part because in it says, have you guys heard about Jason and the 50 Argonauts? Have you ever seen? I'm surprised at how many people have not heard this. Yeah, the movie probably been on 1,000 times, you know. You know, the dragon's teeth, and you'll see them come up, and, you know, yeah, the skeletons come up. Yeah, that's Jason. That's the Jason story and the 50 Argonauts, okay? And it says here, it says, Jason and the Argonauts, the hero Jason, wishes to search for the golden fleece, which is known to be a solar symbol. It says the hero, his teeth are the teeth of a dragon. And in the Jason story, the hero Jason sows the dragon's teeth. It says the 50 companions are mentioned several times. It says in fragmentary text, it is extremely broken and confused. Further light on it of sowing the dragon's teeth seemed to come from a passage where Jason, who has for some unknown reason been asleep, has awakened, girded himself, stood like a bull on the great earth, and he put his mouth to the ground, and his teeth shook. And that's when these armies stood up. Now, it says for some reason Jason had been asleep, okay? And I see that as us, you see, asleep, you see. And now he's trying to wake up, you see. It all leads back into, we go on to where when he gets the golden fleece and his 50 companions, and, you know, it leads us up to the story where we're talking about him getting on a boat. And they call this the celestial ship, you see. So the story is all about Jason waking up, and I'm still trying to make sense of what this dragon teeth symbolizes, you see, bones or teeth, you see, and that is what he throws into the ground, and the ground shakes, and this huge army raises up, you know, to defend, you know, in his defense, you see, to help him gain control of the fleece. And once he gains control of the fleece, then they can go and they can move. This group of 50 is related to some oarsmen in a celestial boat. And then what they do is connect the celestial boat to like the Ark of Noah. And it is the same concept, which is identical with that of the Ark of Noah, which is a magical ship in which sit those who came out of the womb, in the sense that they repopulate the world after the great deluge, okay? And the deluge, we're talking about the great flood, okay, in the sense of Noah. But if you want to equate that to today, we're looking at this representing Aries or Jason, the energy, because remember, we're talking energies. We're just giving them characteristics so we can understand the story. Now, Jason representing the Aries energy, and attached to the Libra energy. This is where the Christ energy comes in at. Opposite signs are really the same signs. They're just demonstrating opposite sides of the picture. One's demonstrating the physical side and one's demonstrating the spiritual side. So we're talking about a physical warriorship, you see, which brings us to the spiritual Christ in the Libra energy, which is the opposite of the Aries. We're talking about the Christ. Now, as we make our claim and gain, you know, the right to the golden fleece or the rulership, the solar rulership, then we have to use the spirit, or it brings us to the spirit, or connecting with our Christ energy, okay, which is the Libra energy, and this represents the Christ energy. Now, the next sign after that is Scorpio, which is the great deluge, or what they're talking about, the flood, in relations to the flood after Noah's Ark, you see. This is the flood that's going. Once we fight for our spiritual warriorship, which is putting these two together, you see, then that gives us the great crossover in the Scorpio energy, which is that water, or that flood, or that deluge, which takes us into the Sagittarius energy, which is what we call the great creative place, you see. And I did a lecture, my first lecture that I did here, I was talking about, I brought up the Mayans calendar of 2012, when this gateway is supposed to open up on December 21st, 2012, you see. And this is what that is symbolizing, that gateway that opens up in 2012. And this is us bringing our Christ, or getting in touch with our spirit energy after we have made our personal claim, you see, as warriors for this in the Aries energy, and then making that great crossover through that Scorpio energy, you know, which is the transformation. Scorpio represents the transformation, and that's the passageway over onto the, and then as we move into the Sagittarius, they call that, the Mayans called it the great creative place, you see, because Sagittarius, its energy is ruled by the planet Jupiter, which is actually representing, you know, abundance or expansion, or where you gain your fortune at. And this is what they call the great creative place. In 2012, December 21st is when this gateway is supposed to open, and it's reflected in the Milky Way, you see. how that great crossover is going to take us over to the creative place, which they identify as the Sagittarius energy, you see. So it all starts here in the Aries energy, which becomes the warrior for justice or for harmony or for peace or for getting in harmony with our spirit, you see. And when we're talking about the collective spirit, we're talking about getting in harmony with the Christ spirit, you see. That is going to be the only thing that's going to lead us to over this transformation or the Scorpio water, you know, to the great creative place, you see. So this is one of the reasons why the Aries energy is so important. It represents the new beginning from the physical side and how we take our personal role, okay? This is where you get the stories of King Arthur and all having to pull the sword out. Who is worthy? Okay, so that is the hero that we identify with at a personal level in the Aries, you see. And this is where all those fairy tales come into play. You see, the prince that had to slay the dragon in order to rescue the princess, you see, because not only are we, here we're representing the masculine energy, and here we're representing the feminine, you see, because of Venus, and then we have Mars here. So everything, anytime we want to come into a fulfillment, we always have to balance opposites, you see. You can only create by balancing opposites. Two halves come together to make a whole. It's the only way to create, you see. So you have to, in other words, stand up in your Aries energy for that warriorship as symbolized by the Jason, you know, in order to open up and tap into that Christ energy, which is the feminine half to the masculine half, you see. And so when you bring these two together, then you're coming together in a wholeness, you see. And that is where you start opening up to your creative force or your creative power, you see. But the hero has to stand up in the Aries energy. This is where he makes his claim. This is where he says, okay, you know, I am now in a position where I can conquer any feat, just like I just read about Jason here, where the king put him to a test and told him, well, you can get the fleece, but only if you perform this task. And see, this is the thing that is put in front of all of us, you see. We all have a personal dragon to slay, you see. But we're not looking at external, we're looking at internal dragons, you see. And when we slay these internal dragons, then we are in a position to stand up and make our claim on being able to access, you know, or rescue the princess. Can you see what I'm saying? Stand up, you know, as the hero, slay those dragons, especially those internal dragons that definitely has us still hooked up to the matrix, you see. We have to become unplugged. And that's what that warrior energy, that Aries energy does. It gives us the courage, you know, to become unplugged, you see, and stand up and make our claim on our rulership. And by doing this, we open up, you know, to the collective. See, because when we're looking at this side, we're looking at the personal side. When we're looking at this side, we're looking at the social side. So in other words, you're going to stand up in your own personal heroic and perform your feat to make your claim in order to fulfill the whole, you see, which is the feminine side, rescuing, you know. It's all about, see, the masculine represents the spiritual, and the feminine represents the physical, you see. And so it's all about combining the physical with the spiritual in order to become whole. That's the ultimate opposite that we have to bring together in order to become whole. And it's only until we become whole that we do empower ourselves, you see. We do empower ourselves through that. See if I had another story here. Did have one on the celestial ship. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, page 47, 48. Okay. Because, and that's why I'm surprised more people aren't here, because this is now the new beginning. This is where we should be getting this information, understanding that this is the time, you see. Because the next sign after Aries is Taurus, which is the earth sign. And just like I said, so all of this really began as we started in, it would have been the Aquarius energy, the air energy, which is the age that we're moving into. You see, the Aquarian age, the knowing age. I know who I am, you see, which is the Aries energy. I am, you see. So once we know who we are from the Aquarius energy, you see, then through the Pisces energy is where we would cleanse of any impurities that would prevent us from stepping up, you see. That we cleanse of that, and then we're ready to empower ourselves through this Aries energy, with that magical force, connecting up with our divinity, you see, because, they couldn't pull King Arthur's sword up, all the men tried. Only the hero could pull it out, you see, because that was through his divine right. And this is how we connect up with that. Through our divine right, we can be the heroes through the Aries energy. And as we demonstrate that, the knowing of who we are, you see, and then is when we can manifest, our intentions from that Aries passion, into the physical manifestation in Taurus, you see. And Taurus is the sign of growth, you see, where things take hold and start making its growth, you see. So right now is the time to be formulating, what it is, what is your claim to your role in this universal fight, to bring Mother Earth. And the only way, and Aries is a personal sign. It's a personal sign, okay? And but the only way to use that personal energy correctly is to stand up to your personal, battle, for the whole, you see. So that's what we need to do. We need to identify what is my role, what do I need to do, to step up and make my claim in being a spiritual warrior for the new age that's coming in, you see. And Aries is also a cardinal sign, which is a leader sign. So that means that you're making your claim to your rulership in this energy, you see. Those who step up now are showing themselves to the universe, as ready to make their claim, for in this new rulership, you see. So this is definitely not the time to be asleep. Just like they said about Jason, he woke for some reason he was asleep, you see, and then he wakes up and he do battle, you see, and make a claim in order to be able to, claim the golden fleece, which is the solar power, and then move into this new crossover, and move into this new paradigm that's opening up, you see. None of this stuff has actually happened. It's happened on a spiritual level, but it hasn't happened now. It hasn't happened physically until now. Now is the time, you see. All these stories we read about, even in the Bible, the Old Testament and all that, they're only symbolic of what's unfolding right now, you see. If we only understood what time it was, we would be in a constant celebration, you see. We would be in a constant celebration. It is time for us to celebrate. It is time for us to recognize, our divinity and step up and make our claim to that. Here it says, I think I wanted to start there. Okay, 47, 48. Okay, 47. Okay. Let's see. I don't know why they got this in two parts. 35, 36, 37. No, I'm still not seeing. Okay, it says okay, it was talking about there, it says the origin of the Trinity is lunar, the 3 in 1 in nature. The moon was one as the The moon was one as the moon which was twofold as, no, this isn't it. I don't know why I had that page down there because it's not what I was looking to read. But anyway, let me see. See if I have some more here to read then, in this serious mystery here. Let's see, 5 to 89, yeah. Okay. Some more on Jason here. Yeah, Jason and the Argonauts. The hero, Jason, wishes to search for the golden fleece, which is known to be a solar symbol. The hero, his teeth are the teeth of a dragon, and in the Jason story, the hero sews the dragon's teeth. It talks about, it says here, Jason and the golden fleece. The golden fleece was given to Helena by the god Hermes. The Egyptian god Anubis became known to the Greeks as their son Hermes. And then it explains that the golden fleece origin by saying that Helena, who flew away on the golden ram's back to Caucasus, began falling on the way and giving the body of water its name. Okay, I didn't need to read that. It says that the ram's head was on the prow. Rather than having ridden the magical realm of the story, the fact that the more widespread myth, which had an actual realm in the story, maintained specifically that they flew on the golden realm, could refer to the idea of the celestial boat, and thus everyone is correct. In any case, this boat would definitely have been a boat of Egypt. It is worth mentioning also that the 50 Argonauts were also called the Myrah, and they were all related to each other and of the same family, descended all of them from the Minions, with what had been the king of the Minion. And it says Jason and Argonauts, 50 in number, all shared a kind of shadowy anonymity, somewhat reminiscent of the 50 Anunnaki of summer, as they were often referred to simply as the Maya, a group of 50 related oarsmen in a celestial boat. So it all leads us back to the boat, the celestial ship, the Noah's Ark. You know, it's all about stepping up to that Aries warrior ship, claiming your right, you see, to actually be a part of